today we are in the studio to record a very special episode of Talking with Forest Park because we are going to take some time to really get into some detail and help you out. We've seen a lot of questions on reading your Duke Energy bill. We have in the studio today Wright Gwyn, who is in charge of the environmental programs in the city of Forest Park. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
And Wright has spent a lot of time putting together the details. We're going to talk about them. Normally we try to give you a really quick, let's not get into the details, let's hit it and get moving on so we can tell you as much as we can. But there have been so many questions about this. We want to make sure you have a resource with a little bit more detail. So we're going to get into a little bit more detail, which means go get your favorite beverage. No judgment, okay? Go get your favorite beverage. Also, go get your Duke Energy bill because we're going to tell you about things on your Duke Energy bill and you will be able to look at yours and see those same sections. So if you are watching this online and not on cable, then hit pause for a second. Go get your beverage. Go get your energy bill. Go get your neighbors. If the neighbors aren't handy, then you can watch this again with them later with another beverage. It's all good. Have snacks. Get ready, because we're going to cover a lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff.
Okay. We unfortunately did not plan snacks in here. We should have planned ahead for that. But we will try to power through anyway. Before we get into all of the innermost details of what aggregation is, let's talk about the different sections of a bill.
The first thing that's on the page one, top left corner, is the billing summary. All right, it just summarized what you did pay before last month. The bill that you're looking at now is one of our cohorts in the city of Forest Park. We took the name out and all their information out.
Okay.
But the white arrows are for delivery and distribution charges. Okay, and Duke always charges those things. Okay, and we'll get into what they are a little bit later on. And then the yellow arrows, if you are in the city's aggregation program, you would see the electric company and which is Energy Harbor right now, but it's changing to Donergy in June.
Okay.
Or AEP Energy for natural gas.
Okay.
Those would be right there underneath the distribution charges. Okay. If you are with Duke, you would not see another company's name. Okay, but it just summarizes what companies are doing it and how much they are charging you for the energy that you used. Okay, It's just a summary.
So I'm just going to break that down. It's, you see in that blue box at the front of your bill, and you see above your total amount, what they've broken down is the cost to deliver it for gas, the cost to deliver it for electric.
Right.
But then is the cost of the actual gas and the electric.
That you use.
All right, what else are we going to see on this?
Now, right below it, you see your usage snapshot.
Yes.
Now, this will give you how much energy you use for the entire year, but it's broken down by month. And a lot of people, if you have electric, which everybody does, you'll have it by the current month, then the month a year ago, the same month, so you can compare what happened those 2 months, same 2 months. Then you have a whole year usage total, and then you have an average per month. You can see on this snapshot right here that in the summer, from July to let's say October, that really jumped. The electric use really jumped. Now why? It was hot. It was very hot, and you had central air, and so you're just pumping as much cold air into your house as you can to be comfortable, and you can see the rise in it, okay?
So if you're holding your bill, also, you're still on the first page, and right below the blue box is that cool little chart, and you can see how much electricity used month by month.
So on the second page is a page that I really never looked at. All this writing, all these numbers, the websites, everything. So I circled two. The first one I circled is delivery charges. Now that's what we talked about, remember, in the summary.
Yeah.
And the first page, you have a summary and you have delivery charges for electricity and delivery charges for natural gas. Now what are they? Okay, the delivery charges are for the infrastructure that Duke puts together to get the energy from the plant to your house. So for electricity, you have the poles, the wires, and the transformers. They not only maintain them, but they install them, and they have to keep them up. And if the weather's bad, and ice storms, they have to do all that. So they need the money. Those are the distribution to delivery charges for electricity. Now for natural gas, they have pipes. So they have to dig the holes, they have to put in the pipes, and if something happens to the pipes, they gotta go back in, dig them up, and fix them. So that is the delivery charges. These are Duke charges. It has nothing to do with any kind of aggregation program. Duke needs this money to get the energy from point A, which is the plant, to your house. The second thing that I have circled is the choice service ID number. Now this is a 21 character number. It's got a big capital Z in it. We'll show you where it is. But if you're moving from one company to another, either yourself or you want to opt out of something or something, they're going to ask you for some information. And the information that they usually ask for is your choice service ID.
Yeah.
And like I said, we will show you this. So if you ever want to move around and you call a company, make sure you have a bill in your hand because they will ask you for some information so they can do what you want.
And keep one of these bills handy anyway, because this page is all the numbers. You'll notice the very top of the page is to report an emergency. When you lose your power, you can't turn on your computer to go look up the number to call to report the outage.
Mm-hmm.
So it's on this paper. You can pull it out of whatever drawer you keep your bills in. It's right on this paper. And we've mentioned the choice service ID. The number's not here. We're going to show it to you on the next page, but that's the definition of what that means. I will say, of course you need that number if you're calling someone and changing services and
Right.
you move. If you haven't called someone, but they show up at your door or they call you on the phone and they say, hey, we need you to give us that number so we can tell you if you can save money. You did not call them. Do not give them your number. You need it when you know you're making a change. If you give it out otherwise, they may make a change that you didn't plan on, and that's how you wind up sometimes scooped into somebody else's program without knowing it. So that choice service ID number is why you keep your energy bill close to you. You put it away. You don't show it to a guy at the door or anything
Right,
like
or the phone, or at a
Yes.
store.
Yes.
When you hear of a good deal, never really give it out to somebody you don't know. If you initiate the conversation and they ask, the
Yes.
company asks for it, yeah, give it to them, or you're not going to go anywhere with it.
Yes.
But don't give out your information because we will tell you some horror stories at the end of the program that you'll say, yeah, maybe that's a good idea. You can also put
Yeah.
no solicitation signs in your window. Now we're on page 3. We again have your usage, not for electricity, but for natural gas. So you have charts for both, the electric and natural gas, same deal, a year chart broken down by months, and you can get information. And if you can see, 2025, it was very cold in December, January, February. Very cold. And we'll get to that a little bit later on in the program. How cold? Very cold.
Wicked cold.
Wicked cold.
Yeah.
So, but you can see, you can kind of follow it along. So that's what you have. So that's all I want to kind of show you right now for general information.
And if you don't get natural gas at your house, then you won't have that chart.
Exactly.
And that's easy.
That makes it a lot easier.
You can skip this part and just keep listening for the next part that we're going to talk about.
Now we were talking about choice service
Yes.
ID number. Okay, if you look right below the big circle on our page 3,
Yes.
you'll see it. For natural gas, we blanked it out. It's a dark green rectangle. It has 21 numbers and has Z in the middle of it. The same thing for electric. That's where you find your choice service ID number.
So you're seeing on your screen just a green rectangle. That green rectangle is where the choice service ID goes.
Right, it's been blocked
because
out.
we're not going to show you theirs. I'm sorry, we're not going to show you. Also, the top of every page of your bill has an account number. Keep that number to yourself too.
Right,
Because sometimes they can make use of that one if you don't give them the choice ID.
And we've taken that out as well.
Yes.
So that's it. So now we're
Okay.
getting into what you pay.
This is where they break down those numbers.
Right, okay.
Let's look at that.
So what you want to look at on the bottom of this page 3, billing details gas, okay? And you see the billing period. It'll give you the dates of the bill. It also will give you the meter, your meter number at your house. But if you look underneath it, Duke Energy Delivery. Okay, this is for billing details natural gas. And it's got all these. It's got a fixed delivery service charge. It's got usage-based charge. It's got gas delivery riders, applicable surcharges. All that is Duke. Duke
all
needs
goes under
that.
the bold heading of delivery.
Of delivery.
And we said delivery says.
Duke needs that to get the electricity or gas to your
Okay.
house. But on the side, your bill's kind of broken into two different columns. You have the numbers on the left side and all this kind of what you owe, but then you have explanations in a narrative form
Little
on your
tiny
right.
words that we never look at.
Very,
over on the right.
very tiny words.
Okay.
And so, Duke Energy gives you some information that you might want to look at, because if you do want to compare different companies' prices, how would you do that? If you don't know what Duke is, currently paying you. Now remember, Duke is a variable rate.
Yep.
It can change from month to month. So if you're going to do this, you need to look at it from month to month. So the Duke Energy gives you information on the price to compare, and that's on a monthly basis. So you can see it. It's on the second paragraph where it says price to compare. And if you read it, it says if you're considering using a different natural gas supplier, then you have to have a rate lower than, and that's your number. That's what Duke is going to be charging. If you can find a company that has a lower price than what this is right now, remember, this is an old bill.
Yeah.
91 cents is $0.91, 91 cents, then you're getting a cheaper bill, a cheaper rate than what Duke Energy
No,
can
I'm
provide.
going to stop here for a minute, because that 91 cents, 91.9 cents, that's the Duke rate for that month.
For that month.
Which you said. So if this is a bill for a March, right? Is this March of, I think?
It might be
So
March.
this is a bill, let's just imagine this is the bill for March. That means I can only compare if if another company offered that rate for March. It's possible that April's rate is going to be wildly different.
It could be
Yes,
different.
yes.
It could be different. That's what a variable
Because
rate is.
Duke doesn't keep the same one, and you've said I just want to make sure that folks see, if you see a number that says, well, gee, Duke is charging this, that means that's what they charge that 1 month. Just that 1 month. They charge a different number last month, and they'll charge a different number again next month, because their rate will go.
Well,
with
they
the
might.
market.
I mean,
I
they
mean,
might. They
could
might
stay
be the same. They might be 3 or 4 months where it's the same.
They have no promises.
Right, they don't,
Right.
because they have a variable
Yes,
rate.
exactly.
But it can be the same for several months, but then something might happen and they have to change it either higher
And
or
the
lower.
other thing I want to say about that number in that box is that we're going to compare it to something in the next section. That 91 cents does not compare to any of the things
Right, this
over
is,
in that delivery section.
this 91 cents is the rate for each unit of energy that you actually use. It doesn't cover delivery or distribution, just the rate once it gets into your house.
So let's turn the page of our bill, and yours might be on the same page. I don't know how it lined up. Let's look at the next section of our bill to see what we're comparing the 91 cents to.
Right.
And it's under,
Billing details dash gas continued, because
Yes.
it's continuing on. You'll see the total delivery charges. That's those charges that you saw just previously, all added up. It's $58.13.
okay, so that's just the total for
That's
the last
Duke.
section.
Yeah.
That's just the delivery stuff we looked at. That's not the thing we're comparing to the 91 cents
Right,
that's your supply.
right.
Okay, let's look at the supply.
So the supplier is AEP Energy. That is the
Okay.
company that we're using, the city is using, Forest Park, in their aggregation program, and their rate, which is a fixed rate, which means it's going to stay the same through the whole contract,
Got it.
is 58.9 cents. Okay, so that is the rate that it's going to cost you per CCF. Now, CCF stands for cubic feet per cubic foot of gas. All right, so you compare the 58.9, which is AEP's cost per CCF, with the 91 cents for Duke.
91.9, there we
the
go.
91.9 per CCF for Duke, and then you can compare the price. That's why they say price to compare. So with the billing details dash gas,
Okay.
so the money that goes to Duke is $58.13, $58.13. Okay, that's for to get the electricity to your house. No aggregate, that just is Duke. It's on your bill all the time. blah. The only thing that the aggregation is the $27.11,
Yep.
$27.11.
So let's look at electric.
Okay, same kind of format with that what we saw with gas
Okay.
is with electric. Billing details electric, you've got your meter reading, your billing period, your delivery, Duke Energy delivery costs. As you can see, boom, 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 they total $27 plus. Okay, those are the delivery costs to get it to your house. Duke will always get that. And then Energy Harbor is, again, the company that the city chose and contracted for their electric power in our aggregation program. And so it is 6.77 cents per
Nice.
kilowatt hour. If you look over on the narrative side, the right side of that page, again, look for price to compare. Read on, and it says you can find something lower than 8.18 cents per kilowatt hour, then you're doing good.
And you're happy, yeah.
You're happy. And so we're about a penny and a half less, at least the aggregation program. Now you got to remember, this is for this month, for Duke. Yeah. It could be higher, it could be lower. But that's how you do it. That's how you compare. And then if you want to get your little calculator, you can figure out how much you saved. If you were with Duke, you would pay a little bit more. And so you could kind of figure out, well, I saved like $20. There's also something that we didn't touch on for gas and electric suppliers that you, right in the middle of that, the first paragraph, Duke will give you their phone number and their address. If you have any questions, you want to opt in, opt out, in the city's program anyway, it's right there. You can give them a call, but that's where the information is. So the first two paragraphs of each billing details whatever the energy source is. You have the price to compare and Duke's rate, so you can compare those things, and also the information on who is providing that energy to your house.
So if you live in Forest Park and you are watching this and you're thinking, okay, but really no idea, is it okay if they come by? They should probably call and make sure your office hours are scheduled. And
that's always good.
Yeah.
That's always good. But I'm in the office quite a bit.
Okay.
But I've had people come in and they didn't understand the bill. They've had friends tell them that you're getting double billed because you're with the city's program. And by the time they leave, they understand what the numbers mean, where the money is going, and for what reasons. So to kind of wrap this up, your bills, it really is two components. One is for delivery and distribution charges, which always goes to Duke. Does not affect any kind of aggregation program. It's there, it goes to Duke. The other component, it's just the rate per unit of energy that you use. That is it, that one number, not all these other numbers, that one number of what it is per kilowatt hour or CCF. What are you paying per unit of energy? And that is easy to compare.
we keep using that word aggregation.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to put the bill aside for a second and just talk about what does that choice mean? Because we kind of understand what it means to get it from Duke. That's what we've always done since dirt was new. We kind of can figure out, oh, okay, or this other company could sell it to me. Got it. That's how things work. What does aggregation even mean?
Aggregation basically is the pooling of a number of different, in case of energy, a number of houses all together to make our bid more important and more valuable to these energy companies so that we would get a better price or better benefits from what they can offer.
And so in order to even start looking into whether an aggregation deal was going to be a good deal you could offer the residents, you first had to get permission from the residents. So how did that work?
You've got to go out and put it on the ballot. It's an initiative on the ballot, and it was passed in 2019, and it allowed the city to then go into planning for an aggregation program. So we hired an energy consultant, Energy Alliance, and they went out to bid with 5,000 households approaching different energy companies. And we did get our first contract was with Constellation. We did really well with that on electricity. And then it moved from Constellation to Energy Harbors, and now we're going to go to Dynegy in May and June.
So I'm going to slow down that process a little bit. So that means in 2019, the voters of Forest Park said, yeah, go look into that. It didn't mean anyone had to do anything. It just gave the city permission to start talking to the energy consultant to see if there were rates that they could do. And the point of it is that one house can't go, it doesn't have a lot of weight. You don't have enough energy usage on that little chart to go to another supplier and say, hey, can I get a better deal if you buy all my energy for the year? They'll say, ha, you're only this big. But 5,000 houses,
Right.
That's a deal that some of those companies might give you a better rate so they can get your business.
Right, and this isn't new. This all
Yeah.
came across around the year 2000. Okay,
Yes.
so it's been in existence for over 20 years, 2 decades.
And all of the towns in the area also are working in aggregations. This isn't
the-
some weird thing that only Forest Park does.
No, it's
Okay.
the majority, and in fact, we were one of the last ones to really get it approved. But yes, Ohio has a vast array of different aggregation programs, community aggregation programs.
And it does some things for residents. I want to hit some elements of what an aggregation program in the city does. It means, so the city has been negotiating through Energy Alliance, because they're the guys that know all the people, contracts that have a fixed rate.
Right, they're all fixed rates.
So that means throughout the whole time of that aggregation, if it's a 2-year aggregation contract, you know your electric on that box and when you're comparing your price, the Duke might go up or down, but you know that yours, if you're in the aggregation, is going to stay the same.
Rate.
Okay. It gives residents a choice. They can stay with Duke. They can still pick their own.
Right, and you can opt in and opt out as often as you want to. There's no limit, no number. You just have to remember that it might take a month or two to make the switch. It's not like you just pull the plug and say, okay, now I'm with Duke tomorrow.
If you opt in on Friday, you won't be in on Saturday.
Right, it's going to take a month or two,
Yeah,
so it
yeah.
takes a little bit of time,
Yeah.
but there's no cost, and you can decide on your own how to do that. A lot of people like Duke. They feel comfortable with Duke, and so you get to decide, like you said earlier, what exactly do you want? And if you want to opt out of the city's electric program, you can permanently.
Yeah.
You can, there is a website that you can go to. You can't do this with natural gas. I don't know why the state didn't do natural gas, but you can do this with electricity. You can go to a website, the PUCO website, and you can be put on a list of permanently opting out and staying with your local utility. Or there is a phone number you can call as well and do that. But if you call them, remember, have your bill in hand. You're going to need your choice service ID number and give it to them. But you can be permanently with the local utilities. You will not get letters. You will not get any opt-out notification. But you will with natural gas every time you change a new contract.
You can
but not
still
with
opt out
electric.
with natural gas, but they just don't have this one-time number.
Right.
Okay. Another thing I want to mention, because it's something that we've talked about in the past too, and it's some misinformation that I see. Does the city of Forest Park financially get any benefit from whether or not people are on this or off this?
To answer your question, no.
Yeah.
The city does not have a slush fund or a coordination fund or anything with aggregation. All the savings go to the residents.
I like to pause there for a minute, because it is one of the things, like you said, there were communities when it was a whole new idea, when aggregation was being
We
sorted
were
out.
playing around with
that
it and trying to.
Forest Park didn't have it yet, so Forest Park wasn't even one of them. But there were some communities that said,
This
if
is
we
an
get the
opportunity,
residents in
yeah.
Forest Park, we will keep like a penny from, not only has Forest Park never done that because they weren't even on the train yet, but nobody's doing it at all now. Everybody's doing
I
that.
did ask our
Yeah.
consultant, and I said, do you know of any communities that are having this type of program? They said no.
Okay, and they
And
handle
none that
most
they
of the
know.
ones in the area.
They have about, I think they have 49 different accounts.
Okay, I mean, that's most of the ones in this area.
If we can get to some of the questions that
Yes.
people have. Now, one is, we're changing a contract right now.
Yes.
We're going from Energy Harbors to Dynegy. It's happening this month, and so those that are on or are participating with the city's aggregation program in electricity will be seeing Dynegy on their June bill. Okay? So people are calling me saying, I opted out last time. Why, am I going to get a letter every year? I don't want to do this. I want to stay with Duke. Again, for electricity, if you want to stay with Duke, go with the permanent
the-
opt-out
okay.
list, and you're good to go.
Okay.
But if you don't do that, every time we change a contract, by law, state law, it requires that Duke Energy and Dynegy sends out letters letting you know that there's going to be a change, and how, if you don't want to participate in this change, how you can opt out of the program. That is state law.
So that just means you're invited every time.
You're invited every time, and if you
Okay.
don't answer, you automatically, if you're a Duke customer or with our cities
Yes.
aggregation program, you are put automatically into the new contract unless you opt out.
Now there's the people that won't get it because they did that one-time number you can only do for electric,
Right.
but it's available. And there's one other group that won't get a letter, and that's folks that have their own contract already with somebody else.
Right, with the outside provider.
You're not in the aggregation, you're
Mm-hmm.
not with Duke, you did your own thing, you did your own apples to apples and said, I want to do that one. If you do not remember ever doing that and you didn't get a letter, remember that section of the bill where we said, look who your supplier is? Go look who your supplier is, because then you're with the supplier. Yeah.
The interesting thing is people, some people called me up and said, I didn't get a letter. I said, are you sure? Because letters are flying in and out all the time.
To be fair, you may have gotten a letter.
It
It
might,
may just be-
yeah, I don't look
under
at
your
things.
recycle bin, yeah.
Exactly, exactly. But they might be, like you say, a member of another company. They might have somehow, they got your information. I have seen bills, and this is the good thing about aggregation as far as I'm concerned. It has not only made me more aware of what the Duke Energy bill says and all the information on it, but the community is beginning to understand what's in the bill, and they're beginning to self-manage their accounts instead of just blindly writing a check and going, wow, this is high. I don't understand this. I'm really ticked off. I don't know. Something is not right. But I've had people bring in their bills because they would say, this is just way too much. And I would notice that it's a different company, and they're charging, I've had companies charging people 14 cents per kilowatt hour.
That's so high.
And ours is 6.77. In fact, we just helped a lady in Forest Park. She was somehow got involved with a company that she had never heard of before. And she brought me her bill, and I looked at it and I said, you're paying 14 cents, 15 cents per kilowatt hour. Did you know that? No. I said, well, this is how much difference it is per month. She was paying almost $50 more per month because of that, because it was over 100% more per kilowatt hour.
And this is where we said earlier when we were saying, don't give out your customer choice number, don't give out your account number, those two numbers. One of the ways that happens is someone who either calls you or comes to your door or, I don't know, meets you in the mall or something like that and says, I have a really great deal and Duke is going to go up next month and you have to look at this. And they say the word Duke a lot, by the way, because they know you're familiar with the word Duke. And they'll say, okay, well, I'm going to look at this to see. And what they're doing is they're looking at it to get your info. So even if you literally never said, oh, yes, I like your program. But the other way they can do it is by offering something. Remember we said read all that fine print if you look with another program. The city of Forest Park has read the fine print that goes with the aggregation deal. If you want to pick your own, make sure you're reading all that same fine print, because they may have said, we're going to give you this totally awesome low rate. And then underneath in really tiny letters, it'll say for the first 3 months.
Right.
And then we can do whatever we want after that. And that's when it goes up to 14 cents.
And then you've forgotten exactly what's going on.
And they're really sure that you're not going to look. That's why we spend so much time on the other pages on your bill, because they're really sure you're just going to keep going.
Yeah, there are a lot of numbers. Now, the other thing that I got as far as phone calls go, my bill was so high this winter.
Yes.
You double charged me. If I heard that once.
And aggregation is a weird word, so it's easy to think that was the problem.
Right.
Right?
Duke's involved, the other
Right.
company's involved.
So we'll look at a chart for that too. But yeah,
Right,
go ahead
right.
and tell us why their bills might be high besides aggregation.
It was cold. It was super
That's right.
cold.
It was a very complex reason.
I mean, and it's very difficult. I had some people who said I had it still at 67, but it was twice as much. Well, it was like 6 degrees on average colder this winter than the previous couple winters. And I went back, there's a chart that we're going to show you
Yeah.
that shows that this winter was extremely cold compared to the previous two. And so you need more heat, natural gas heat, to keep the cold out.
Yeah.
And that's a hard concept. People look at the number and think, well, 67, I'll keep it at 67. The price will be the same and everything.
And we've heard turn down your thermostat, but your poor little furnace is working twice as hard.
Trying to make it comfortable.
And then we're looking at heating because in January of 2025, the average temperature was 26.71 according to Lincoln's records, and the previous year it was 32.88 and 38 the year before. It was significantly colder in January of 2025.
And in February, the last 23 and 24, 2023, 24, it was in the 40s, and we're just above freezing this year.
Significantly colder.
Over a long period of time, and that just adds up.
And another place we're going to see that is if we talked earlier about if August was 96 degrees every day, and you normally keep your air conditioner at 72 because that's responsible and cool. Your poor little air conditioner had to use a lot more electricity to keep it at 72.
Right.
So you're going to see you're going to see your numbers go up even if you have the best deal in any aggregation or Duke or with anybody. It doesn't matter because you're still going times more usage.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So that's one reason. That's the very complex reason is we just had to use more energy.
Right.
We talked about the actual rates are changing. That is another reason. This new contract that Forest Park has
With
Dynegy that we're going to start seeing. It begins May. You'll start seeing it on your next bills.
Right, June.
You're going to see the price to compare that Duke is charging go way up, and you're going to see the aggregation number. What's the new number?
The new number for the city aggregation program is 9.58 cents per kilowatt hour.
So you will see that number go up because that is in the current market what supply companies are looking at having to charge, whether it's Duke or whether it's someone else.
And Duke is charging 10.44 cents.
Yeah.
So we're less than a cent, but every fraction of a cent helps.
So we're looking at comparing. I want to look at this electric rate comparison that doesn't include the new contract yet, but we have a chart that tells you what's been happening under the current contract, Energy Harbor. It goes from June of 2003 to March of 2025. And what I think that's the whole term of the fixed rate contract you've had with Energy Harbor.
Yes.
And that's been 6.77 cents.
Right.
So if you're looking at this chart, it is a blue line. The blue line is the rate that someone in the Forest Park aggregation got during that whole term. The red line is what it has been with Duke. Remember, we said Duke is variable. Duke can change every single month. And you can see they pretty much did, a little up, a little, but at no point did they get below 677. I think that's really interesting.
Right.
Because if you look at the number and you're comparing the right thing, you can actually see what a deal the aggregation has been.
Over the total program, the 5 years that we've had electric aggregation, we've saved the community over $3 million.
Nice.
But that's electric.
And that, you're right. Now, natural gas, when the aggregation was approved in 2019, I think it just wasn't where the market was hitting at the right spots. So we weren't able to get on that train as fast, were we?
The natural gas prices changed so fast. By the time we got the legislation ready to sign and everything, the prices moved outside of the legislation. So we had to redo the legislation. So we kept doing that. And finally, we got it where we caught it and got it signed and everything. But natural gas is a different animal. It's if you look at the chart, you'll notice that ours is the first 2 years of the contract, we were like 89 cents. When we signed the contract, you can see that we were below Duke, but then Duke went below us for a certain time period. But you got to remember one thing, natural gas, you use a lot in the winter, of course, for heat, mostly for heat. But during the summer, You
Yeah.
really don't use much natural gas at all, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 CCFs, cubic feet of gas. And so the summer really doesn't affect you much, but the winter we are well aware of. But if you look at the chart where that we got a new contract last year, and we got it down to 58 cents, around 58 cents per CCF. But look at Duke. Duke went from 62 cents. Now this is about the stabilizing the prices for our residents. They were kind of riding with us for a couple months, and then all of a sudden when they were 62 cents, they went up to $1.14 in 1 month.
Yeah, that almost doubled in 1 month.
In 1
Oh my
month,
goodness,
almost.
yeah.
And then right now they're $1.01 per CCF, and ours is still 58 cents. So you can see that we missed it last year or whatever, but then we kind of caught up a little bit in the current situation.
That is really helpful. And with the electric aggregation, I mean, you've done the math for about $3 million in community savings, and that's not $3 million that the city of Forest Park got.
No.
That's $3 million that local residents did not pay in utility bills.
Well, think about it this way. There are some people, like I said previously, that there was a lady that was being charged 14 cents per kilowatt hour. That's $40 a month that she's paying. That once she found out, she stopped, that she was saving $40 a month, depending on how much she was using. And there are a lot of people out there like that. And that's why I really stress that everybody that sees this needs to, next time you get a bill, or if you've got an old bill, look at it, go through here, see who your company is, see what rates. Remember, delivery and distribution charges, aggregation doesn't affect those. That's Duke Energy. But what you're looking at is the rate per unit of energy that you're being charged. And if you see a company that's charging more than list to compare, a lot more, then something's wrong. And you might want to really look at it and get some help to change it.
So we've got some new contracts, which means prices have changed. Let's just cover that and why we see those numbers, because that is one of the things that people are seeing on their bill. They're getting the new month, and if you haven't yet, you'll get the new month, and it'll go from 4.47 or 6.77. It'll go to 9.58 now.
Right.
What's happening there? How come we're seeing that higher number?
Demand for electricity. That's for energy. That's the basic thing. There's two. One is generation increases, the cost of generating electricity. That's one. But there's another component to this that I didn't know until about 3 or 4 months ago. There is a guarantee cost that it guarantees the price, that guarantee that when you flick that switch, there's power in the switch. Because they're guaranteeing that they will provide you enough energy to do that. And with the energy demand that it is today, the price to guarantee that is higher. So there's two components that really make up the charge of what your rate is. The generation rate and guaranteeing that once you turn on something, it'll work.
So it's their promise it's going to work. That's part of the price.
Right, that you'll have it.
How much does it cost them to make the electricity,
right,
or the gas
right,
they're selling you? And there's a lot of increased demand right now.
There is a lot. There's our first with Constellation, it was about 4.5 cents per kilowatt hour. Yeah. That was like 2020. Then when we got Energy Harbors, went up to 6.77. You can see the gradual increase, and you got to remember, COVID was during this time, so a lot of things shut down, and there was electricity. They were trying to give it away.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and so the prices were cheap. The businesses were closing, office businesses were going vacant. People were working at home. People were closing up shop. Schools were closed. So there had electricity. They were trying to give it away.
And they had purchased, because you have to purchase ahead based on how much you expect usage. So they had already purchased energy to keep factories going, to keep schools open, to keep businesses open, and everybody was at home.
Right, and so that was low with Constellation. Then all of a sudden things started picking up. That was Energy Harbor, 6.77, and now in June it's 9.58, but Duke is 10.44.
Yeah.
Not to guarantee that it's going to stay above our price, but ours is flat, and you just keep an eye on
So that's important to know because normally we tell people, hey, if you see a sudden jump in price, but the market itself is changing. The contracts have changed. You will see that change. If you're in the aggregation, you'll see it go to 9.58, but then it's fixed there if you're in the aggregation. If you're with Duke, it's variable. We don't know. We no promises. It could go anywhere. It could go up. It could go down.
Right.
What are some questions that you're getting as we change contracts from residents?
Do we change every year? No. It all depends on the market, like we were talking. Our energy consultants thought that right now the markets are wild. They're going up and down. And so they thought it would be to our best interest to have a one-year contract for electricity. And if for some reason the market goes lower, the rates go lower, then maybe we can get another contract kind of blended in and lower ours a little bit there. But they thought it would be smart to go ahead and do a one-year contract, see what happens, and then to go from there.
And we've seen the longer contracts.
We've had a 3-year contract.
But that's because you were able to snag a deal and you wanted to keep it for 3 years.
Right,
okay.
right.
Okay. So right now it's a short contract on purpose because the idea is, hey, let's see if it stays here. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And for natural gas, this contract will be in effect until October.
Okay.
And so people will be getting letters.
Yes.
You know, to look for those letters. Probably August, September, saying, you know, letting you know who we choose. If we decide to go, we might not sign with anyone if we can't find the right deal. We're not necessarily always going to sign with somebody. So our energy consultants will start going out this summer, trying to get bids, seeing what's happening now and what they project will happen down the road.
And something that we mentioned when we looked at that natural gas chart that I want to mention again, when you see the rates higher, look at what month it is because how much you pay is the rate per CCF times how much you used. And if it's August, you probably turned your gas off. I mean, I've
had friends who have done that. Yeah.
Or you weren't using a whole lot. You
right.
know? So, if you're worried about where the rates are, it's not that we aren't worried about where the rates are. It's just that sometimes you look at it when it really counts. So the one that you have that goes through October is cool. It's not going to be a big deal if it's the best rate in August for gas, but it will be a big deal when we go into the cold winter. So that's why you're looking now.
Right.
Excellent. We've explained some of the basic reasons your bill spiked at certain times of year. Was it your air conditioning because it was wicked, wicked hot out? Was it your gas or electric because it was wicked, wicked cold out? But what are some other things we can do to keep those lower that have nothing to do with the aggregation program or the supplier or any of that?
There are a lot of common sense things that you can do. One is to just have your HVAC system checked to make sure that it's working properly. If you do that every year, depending on how much you use it. I don't use a lot of, I've got an old furnace. So I have somebody coming in every year to just check and monitor, make sure the filters are clean, that it's burning right, because I use fuel oil and things of that nature. Just have it checked and make sure that it's fine-tuned so you're getting the most out of the buck there. Another thing that you can do is check your attic for insulation. Yeah. Heat rises, and if you don't have any insulation, it's going to go right through the drywall, right into your attic, and right outside your house. I know. And if you are interested in putting insulation in the walls, it would make a big difference.
That's going to help your summer too.
Oh, it'll help the summer year round.
We talked about your HVAC system working wicked hard to keep it, taking more energy for the same amount of temperature, cooling or heating. And one of the ways you can help your poor little HVAC system and your furnace is some insulation. Some insulation.
I know I insulated my house, luckily, last October.
Ooh.
And I had a 1954 one-story house, not very big, and I realized after I poked a hole through the wall that there was no insulation at all. I had like siding and studs and tile.
And air.
Okay. And air, and cold air. And I put in insulation, and I used less fuel oil this year than I did last year. And so it made a big difference.
That's nice.
So you can kind of figure out what your return rate would be and how long it would take
Yeah.
to recover your money.
You got to directly see a difference.
I did.
Very
I was
Okay.
questioning it, but I really did. Another simple thing for summer would plant a tree. It might take a little while for the tree to get big enough to shade your house, but get started. You know, and that never hurts.
Is this a good time to mention that Forest Park is kicking off its reforesting program for the year again?
We're doing that. We're subsidizing trees, and go to my website and look. We've got 4 different kinds of trees you can do that, and we also have we're subsidizing attic installations. So we're offering a 60% subsidy up to
So these are not
$1,500.
just random suggestions of
You're
things
right.
you can do. Forest Park will help you. If you think it costs too much to get a tree, Forest Park will make it way more affordable to get 2 trees per residence. And
Attic installation will help you put insulation in your attic. So check us out if you haven't already done that.
okay,
And then the energy aggregation program so far in electricity has worked really well. So you might want to consider that if you're kind of going back and forth. Remember, you can opt in, opt out, opt in, opt out as many times as you want to. It just takes a little bit of time to get it completed. Okay? And if you do want to do the apples to apples, the individuals going to that website, just keep in mind, read the fine print, always look at your bill. This is a self-management kind of a situation where, like you said, after you get great rates, if you didn't read that, you know, after 3 months, it's going to be a variable rate now. It's fixed for 3 months, really nice rates. But then now it's going to be variable, and if you don't catch it or remember it, then you could be taken for a ride. So, but there are good deals out there if you want to pay attention. Okay?
yeah.
So, and the other things that you can do would be to close the drapes during the winter, even in the summer. If the sun is coming into the house,
Sure.
keep it from passive solar energy, do that. Blinds, in the winter or summer, close the vents if you're not using a room. Why heat or cool off a room that you never use? If it's like a guest room or something that's never used, make sure that all that goes into where you're going to be. And turn down the thermostat or turn up the thermostat depending on what
Time of year it is, yeah.
And in the winter, wear a sweater. I've got my own favorite sweater. I go home. I feel like Mr. Rogers almost because I have a special sweater I put on. It's comfortable, and I just put it on, and I'm good to go.
Do you also kick off your loafers and put on sneakers?
I kick off my sneakers and walk around in my socks.
Are there puppets and a little trolley?
No puppets. I haven't
Okay,
gotten there yet.
these are things inquiring minds want to know.
I understand that.
Okay, got it.
And then the one thing is, and we talked about this earlier, just Google tips of, you know, saving energy. Read them, take them with a grain of salt. You know, if something seems a little questionable, maybe investigate it a little bit, but there are all kinds of good ideas out there.
And we always say, what's the source? But there's a lot of government websites that will give you energy saving tips. There's whole organizations, nonprofit organizations. Look for a .org or a .gov.
Right.
Not Uncle Frank's way to have less energy.net or something. No shade if your name is Frank. You probably know a lot about saving energy. But, look for a .org or a .gov or some kind of reliable organization that probably has people who will get in trouble if it's wrong. And there's a lot of good information about there. And, our mothers always told us to put on a sweater and turn down the thermostat, right?
Right.
So, Mom was right. What are we going to do?
And the last thing is, and we talked about this earlier, never, ever give out your account information to anybody that knocks on your door, calls you on the phone saying, we've got such a good deal, we're calling people around in your area, and you might want to take advantage of this, or sometimes you're at a store and they set up a table and it sounds really good, and somehow you've got a bill and you give them information, you don't think twice about it, and then 6 months later you're wondering why things are so high. So never, ever give out that information unless you call a company and say, hey, I want to change something, and this is my information.
The rule of thumb is if you called them, then you know you're talking to the right person.
Right.
If you didn't call them, you have no way of verifying that that's really the right thing. Also, another flag is if you have to do it right now and they won't let you ask someone or check someone or think about it, that's a red flag because responsible business isn't conducted that way because it'll hold up. Because all you can say, can you leave some information? I'd like to look into this. I'd like to go take this and show it to Wright down at the city building and see if he thinks that makes sense.
Right.
I'd like to show it to just someone else in my family. If they want you to make a decision right that minute without thinking, that's a flag. So that's, that's all really good. We wouldn't have to keep saying it if people weren't still going out and asking for it.
Right, and the city, like you said
Yeah.
previously, the city has not okayed any solicitations for anything. Not only for energy, but for anything. So if somebody's knocking on your door and they say, well, the city gave me permission, that is not correct, because we have not given any permission for any solicitation since COVID started. So that's a red flag as well.
Well, thank you so much for coming in. We have covered a lot.
I hope we didn't bore people. They cut us off early.
Well, no, we told them to get cupcakes
That's right.
and
That's right.
beverages. We didn't say what beverage.
That's right. Right.
What?
Have friends.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't name the beverage. Whatever beverage got you to the end of this program, I support that.
Right.
And if you are still watching, nice job. You are now more informed than any of your neighbors on how your energy bill works, on how aggregation works. You're ready to make sure you make the best decisions on your house's energy spending. Now, go make your friends and neighbors watch this, right?
Right. There's a lot flying around
Yeah.
right now, and I'm not on Facebook, but people have told me that there's a lot of misinformation on Facebook that's flying around. And that lady that had a 14-cent rate charge per kilowatt hour was told that it was because of our program, the city's aggregation program, and that
she wasn't in.
She should be really upset.
Yeah.
And so we straightened that out. So there's a lot of misinformation. So if you need to talk to me or come by the office, please do.
And have a viewing party. We think this will be fun to watch. We really do. We think you should invite your friends over, and that you should
With their
serve-
bill. Everybody brings a bill.
Tell your friend to bring their bill and not show anyone the numbers on it, but just
Right.
to keep it. It's not that kind of. We're not trying to get anything. And that they can all bring your own favorite snack and beverage, and this will be an energy learning party.
And I guarantee you,
yeah.
some of those are going to look and say, "Oh my God."
Yeah.
And that would be an interesting moment.
Well, and if you have that party, you will be the cool neighbor that helped them figure out that they were also swiped into some program where they're paying 14 cents.
Very well could.
And you will be their hero. So highly recommend. Make this into a viewing party opportunity to make yourself the cool neighbor in the neighborhood. Thanks again so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching all the way to the end. If you got to this part of the program, nice job. You are so informed now. And make sure you keep watching. Follow the Forest Park website. The City of Forest Park has a website where it has everything you can find on there. The City of Forest Park official Facebook page also lets you know when programs are starting, including these tree programs and attic insulation programs. All this stuff will show up on the Facebook page. And we'll see you next time.